Could you survive as Bane? Not just the muscle. Anyone can lift weights. I'm talking about surviving Peña Duro, the hellish prison where he was born. Learning 6 languages without a teacher. Training your body into a weapon with nothing but prison bars and your will. Then injecting yourself with a drug so dangerous it kills everyone else, just for a shot at greatness. Bane isn't just strength. He's strategy, pain tolerance, and obsession. So, forget becoming Batman. Ask yourself, could you survive long enough to become the man who broke the Bat? Let's find out. Bane's origin isn't just tragic, it's mythic. Born inside the hellish prison of Peña Duro on the fictional Caribbean island of Santa Prisca, Bane was sentenced to a life behind bars before he could even crawl. His father, a revolutionary, escaped the regime's grasp, but his punishment fell on his infant son. From that day forward, Bane was condemned to a childhood of chains, concrete, and survival. But instead of breaking, he adapted. He read every book he could get his hands on, from religious texts to scientific treatises. He trained his body with military precision, using prison bars as his gym and combat with fellow inmates as his test. By the time he reached adulthood, Bane wasn't just the strongest man in the prison, he was the most dangerous mind in it too. What truly catapulted him into legend, though, was the experiment. The prison's warden selected him for a test involving an experimental drug called Venom. All previous test subjects had died. Bane survived and thrived. The drug enhanced his already incredible physique, giving him temporary superhuman strength. But it came with a cost. Without regular injections, Bane would suffer violent, debilitating withdrawals. Fueled by vengeance and intellect, Bane set his sights on Gotham. Not for money, not for chaos, for dominance. He studied Batman like a tactician would study a fortress, gathering intelligence for months. And then, he struck. In the iconic 1993 Nightfall storyline, Bane orchestrates a mass breakout from Arkham Asylum, forcing Batman to exhaust himself battling dozens of villains. When Bruce is at his lowest, physically and mentally, Bane invades Wayne Manor, confronts him in the Batcave, lifts him over his head, and breaks his spine. He doesn't just beat Batman, he annihilates the myth. This isn't the story of a street thug on steroids, it's the tale of a self-made monster. Bane isn't driven by madness like the Joker, or ideology like Ra's al Ghul. He's driven by pure will, intellect, and a relentless desire to control his own destiny. Every part of his story, his prison upbringing, his dependency on Venom, his strategic mind, makes him one of the most terrifying characters in the DC universe. But what about his feats? Could anyone actually lift what Bane lifts? Or break a human spine like that? Let's crank the science up to 11 and find out just how far he pushes the limits of reality. Let's start with the big one, lifting Batman and breaking his back. Assuming Bruce Wayne weighs around 210 pounds with all his gear, and that Bane lifts him completely overhead and then slams him down across a knee, that's over 1,000 newtons of force in a perfectly timed arc. It's not impossible if you're a world-class powerlifter. But Bane isn't just lifting people. He's shown flipping over cars, punching through walls, and in one comic, throwing a grown man across a city street like a rag doll. In Batman: The Vengeance of Bane, he rips steel doors off their hinges. In Forever Evil, he goes toe-to-toe with metahumans and wins. That's well beyond Olympic level. In reality, the human deadlift record is around 1,104 pounds, set by Hafthor Bjornsson. That's impressive, but Bane is depicted lifting nearly 30,000 pounds, a small bus. To pull that off, your muscles wouldn't just need to be bigger, they'd need to be built from different materials entirely. Tendons would need to be 10 times stronger, bones reinforced like carbon fiber. And let's not forget the heart. Bane's cardiovascular system would have to handle insane blood pressure spikes without exploding. Then there's the durability. Getting slammed through walls, falling from rooftops, taking full force punches from Batman, and walking away. Real bone fractures occur at about 4,000 newtons of impact. Bane eats that for breakfast. The average human skull cracks at around 520 pounds of pressure. Bane gets punched in the head with that force regularly and keeps going. One of the wildest moments? He once tears open a bank vault door. Those things can resist over 10,000 pounds of force. That's Hulk territory. Not to mention the raw stamina. In several comics, Bane fights for hours, takes beatings from multiple opponents, and still stays on his feet. In real life, even elite MMA fighters gas out in minutes without breaks. So, how's he pulling this off? The answer? Venom. The drug supercharges his muscles in seconds, flooding his bloodstream via tubes connected directly to his brainstem. It's like a shot of adrenaline, if adrenaline gave you gorilla-like strength and didn't cause a heart attack. The closest real-world analogs are anabolic steroids and experimental myostatin inhibitors. Steroids can give athletes a 20 to 30% strength increase, but they don't turn you into a tank. Myostatin blockers might one day create bodybuilders with freakishly dense muscles, but not wall-punching, bat-breaking monsters. Bottom line, Bane's feats break every law of biology, biomechanics, and physics. But that hasn't stopped scientists from chasing his secret weapon. So what would it actually take to invent something like Venom in real life? Let's get one thing straight. Venom is not your average steroid. In the comics, it gives Bane the strength to lift tons, survive gunfire, and overpower superhumans within seconds. That's not strength enhancement. That's rewriting the laws of physics. But could science even begin to replicate it? Let's look at what we've got. First up, anabolic steroids. These synthetic testosterone mimics help users increase muscle mass, reduce recovery time, and push past their natural limits. But limit is key here. Even on high doses, an elite bodybuilder can maybe lift 10% more than clean athletes. No one's throwing pianos or ripping iron gates off hinges. Then there's myostatin inhibitors. Myostatin is a protein that stops your muscles from growing too big. Block it, and your muscles keep expanding. In mice, this can double muscle mass. In a famous 2007 case, a German boy with a natural myostatin mutation was born with extraordinary muscle growth. But again, more muscle doesn't mean superhuman strength, because bones, tendons, and organs still operate under human limits. Let's say a future drug could grow muscles, reinforce bones, boost tendon resilience, and supercharge adrenaline, all without side effects. That would be a miracle compound. But science says, not happening. Steroids already cause liver damage, heart problems, hormonal collapse, and psychological issues like aggression and depression. Now imagine cranking that up to 1,000%. There's also the delivery system. Venom is injected directly into Bane's brainstem via a backpack and tubes. Real intravenous drug delivery is dangerous. Targeting the brain? Insanely risky. You'd risk seizures, strokes, or death long before lifting a car. Could we invent a safer version using nanotech or gene editing? In theory, CRISPR could alter genes to boost muscle growth or reduce fatigue. But in practice, gene editing is still risky and unpredictable. Even if we could modify the human genome to enhance strength, you'd still face a cascade of unintended consequences: organ failure, joint collapse, or cancer. Then there's adrenaline and focus. Bane isn't just strong, he's razor sharp when using Venom. But stimulants like amphetamines or modafinil don't grant strength. They increase alertness, yes, but they can also cause insomnia, anxiety, and heart stress. Combining those with physical enhancement drugs, that's a medical time bomb. At the end of the day, Venom is science fiction. It's a symbol of what we wish we could be: bigger, faster, stronger, immediately. But reality has a way of keeping our fantasies in check. The human body has limits for a reason. Still, that doesn't stop us from trying to find the edge, which brings us to the final question. Could you, under any circumstances, become Bane? Let's break this down. Bane's existence is a perfect storm of rare traits: insane genetic luck, unbreakable discipline, ruthless ambition, and exposure to experimental science fiction level drugs. Each of those traits alone is rare. Combined, practically impossible. Could you become super strong? Sure. With years of lifting, perfect diet, and maybe a little chemical assistance, you could become a beast in the gym, but you won't be lifting buses. Could you develop Bane's mind? Maybe, but mastering multiple disciplines like he does requires decades of focused, uninterrupted learning. Even the smartest minds in the world specialize. Bane is a one-man army of expertise, all acquired in a prison cell. That's not just genius, that's narrative magic. And could you survive Peña Duro? That's the wild card. Some people endure trauma, a few grow stronger from it, but the psychological damage of growing up in solitary confinement under brutal conditions would cripple most people. Bane doesn't just survive, he thrives. That resilience, that might be the most unrealistic part of all. So, could you be Bane? No, not really. But that's the point. Bane is a symbol of what we fear, what we admire, and what we fantasize about becoming. He's the monster who earned his power not through radiation or alien heritage, but through sheer will. And that's what makes him dangerous. You can't become Bane, but you can learn from him about the cost of power, the danger of obsession, and the thin line between discipline and destruction. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of Batman's most terrifying foes, smash that like button and let us know in the comments if science could recreate just one of Bane's traits. Strength, genius, or resilience, which one would you choose?